Hi, my name is David, but you can call me Skip, and welcome back to another episode of Notflix, the show about other shows. Today we are discussing Netflix's original series, Insatiable, Season 1, Episode 6, Dunk and Donut. Oh, I just got the title. If you haven't watched the episode yet, make sure to do that first because I'm warning you now, there will be spoilers. But if you have, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So the last time we saw Patty and Bob, Bob had officially decided that he was going to coach Patty. He didn't appreciate what she did, but he understood it. And Patty had finally gained the affections of Brick, which is what she's been wanting all along, apparently, as well as Bob's affections, but she can put that to the side for the moment. And Magnolia had seen them kissing and looked angry as hell, and so had Nani, who was questioning her sexuality finally. Now, jumping into this week's episode, Patty and Brick are fully entrenched in hormonal teenage goings-on, I guess is the best way to put it. And in the VO, Patty is sort of talking about how she has never been really comfortable in her skin, and she wants to take out this new body for a ride, and she finally wants to lose her virginity, and she wants Brick to do it. Now, Brick, being the gentleman that he is, and stating that he actually really likes Patty and he wants it to be special for her, he's like, okay, we're taking it things a little bit too fast, and I want this to be special. So, let's hold off, and when the timing is right, the timing will be right. And you know, that's very surprising, I guess, let's say, for a teenage boy. But I guess he is very well experienced, as we've seen before. So maybe it's not that surprising. Maybe he's a little bit more mature than I'm thinking he is. But, you know, he is still a teenage boy. He does the right thing for now. She then gets a text message, one from Magnolia and one from Bob. Magnolia is sort of like testing her because they're new friends, and Magnolia's like, is Brick seeing somebody else? I think he's cheating on me, or like, I don't know why he doesn't want to be with me. I mean, obviously not cheating on her because they're not dating anymore, but she's curious about what's going on, and she's like testing her new friend, even though we know as the viewers that she saw them kiss, but Patty doesn't know that. Whatever. And the other one from Bob, the other text message from Bob is basically saying like, I need to get your birth certificate, not your birth certificate, your baptism certificate stating that you got baptized so that you can compete in the Miss Magic Jesus pageant. Because obviously, Miss Magic Jesus, you need to have been baptized to participate in this pageant. Come to find out, she's never been baptized. Surprise, surprise. Her mom was too drunk to have taken care of the baptism when she was born. So Patty was never baptized, and they have to go to the pastor to figure all this out so that Patty can compete in the pageant. Now, at the orientation for Miss Magic Jesus, which is at the church, which is where they're going to see the pastor, Magnolia confronts Patty, again, testing her friend, and basically like blows up at her and is like, I know I saw you two together. You're a stupid slut. Maybe not stupid. She didn't say stupid slut, but she did call her a slut. And I am going to basically ruin your life. And if you think you're ever going to win a pageant, good luck with that. So what I had predicted from last week's episode to this week's episode is actually coming true. Not surprising again. And in this pageant, there is a girl, at the orientation for the pageant, there is a girl who is not your typical beauty queen and is interesting to have put this girl in this realm, in this world, because it sort of like mirrors who Patty used to be if Patty had had some sort of confidence to begin with and didn't place her confidence and self-worth in the way that she looked. Because this girl is beautiful, is competing in the pageant, does have confidence, doesn't value her self-worth in the way that typical beauty standards that society has stated for us, and is competing in the same pageant that all these other girls is competing in. And she tells Patty, you know, you're only as beautiful as you are on the inside, basically. And this comment is what sort of sets Patty in motion for sort of reevaluating what's going on in her life at the moment. Now, when they talk to the pastor sort of sets Bob and Patty off on their own separate paths that are sort of like conjoining paths again, that they need to figure out how to be, Patty needs to figure out how to be selfless, and Bob needs to figure out how to be a better father to his son if he wants to be Patty's godparent. Now, obviously, Bob and Brick have a strained relationship, and Patty, who up until recently hadn't had more than one friend, is now sort of like taking advantage, as we've seen, of the attention that she's been getting, which, you know, isn't necessarily unheard of. I mean, I would expect that if you had gone through such a major change in your appearance, that you would be getting a lot of attention, and you would be sort of basking in that attention, at least for a little while, until that attention sort of like wore off and like your new appearance became the norm, and that's how people started to remember you as. But it seems that Patty is taking it to a new level, because she's thinking in her head, because I guess Magnolia told her this, but she thinks in her head that she's stolen Brick from Magnolia, and at least Magnolia thinks this, and she thinks that the way to make it better is to set her up with another guy. Now, personally, I don't know that that was the best choice for her. And I don't know that if you wanted to continue to be friends with somebody, that this would be the right thing to do. I mean, obviously, Patty has never had to deal with anything like this before, so she doesn't really understand the inner workings of a friendship necessarily, such as this one, that is basically, well, not even basically, is very superficial. And at the end of the day, there is no fixing this friendship. But she wants to try and mend things with Magnolia. So she decides to set her up with Christian, who happens to be the pastor's son. And she knows that they obviously already have some sort of relationship, because Christian is Magnolia's drug dealer. So she goes to Christian, and she's like, look, I need you to do me a favor. I want you to ask out Magnolia, because she basically needs a win. I mean, she might as well have said that. And Christian is like hitting on her and like being kind of a sleazy guy, and is like, I don't want to ask her out because I'm into you and you're into me, so why would I be asking out Magnolia, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. He then decides to ask her out, and Magnolia and Christian sort of hatch this plan up where they think that if they date and they do it publicly and they throw it in Patty and Brick's face, that Patty and Brick will then get jealous, and Brick will come back to Magnolia and Patty will go to Christian. Simple enough plan, right? And they even like reference it being the plot to like every 80s film, and yeah, it is. It's something we've seen before, it's nothing new, and again, what else can we expect from a show like this but them to give us what we expect? And that's fine. I don't know. I don't know what I'm expecting from this. I really don't at the end of the day. I shouldn't have, my expectations aren't very high to begin with, but I mean, I feel like self-referencing is a little gross. I mean, they even reference Santa Clarita Diet, which is another original Netflix show within this show, which is sort of like, supposed to be like a wink wink nod nod to the audience, like, oh, we're talking about Netflix even though we're on Netflix. Oh, isn't this a funny joke? But like, it's not a funny joke. Whatever. The reference to Santa Clarita Diet comes from Nani, who wants to watch it with Patty that weekend because it's sort of their ritual, and the new season has just come out. But Patty's like, I'm busy, I gotta get baptized, I'm figuring this thing out with Magnolia, I'm trying to repair this relationship, as well as like keep my relationship with Brick. So maybe next weekend. And who's with her? Donald. Is like, I'll watch it with you. And she's like, no, it's not the same thing. And he's like, well, why don't you come to this open mic night at this cafe that I go to? And she's like, you're into open mics and cafes? And he's like, there's a lot more to me than you realize, blah, blah, blah. Stupid, but whatever. Brick comes to Patty after this and is like, my dad has a cooking class tonight, so we'll have the house to ourselves because Alyssa Milano hasn't come back yet. And I'm gonna plan something special for you. So it looks like Patty's going to lose her virginity to Brick, right? Yeah. All of this sex talk when it comes to talking about sex about teenagers or teenage sex is a little uncomfortable for me, because even though I know that this is happening in high schools and I know that people are having sex younger and younger and younger this day and age, it's still like, I feel like a little bit uncomfortable, and I wish that they would have saved sort of these characters' innocence a little bit, but I guess that would be untrue to reality and the reality of teenagers in this day and age. But maybe consider this, if teenagers watching a show like this didn't see them over-sexualized or hyper-sexualized, however you want to put it, maybe they'll get the idea that being hyper-sexualized or over-sexualized shouldn't be a possibility and shouldn't be something that we should be engaging in before we're grown adults and we know what we're doing. But I'll get off my soapbox, and people are going to do what they're going to do. And at least when Brick and Patty are engaging in this sort of sexual relationship, I mean, they don't actually end up having sex, and we will get to that, condoms are introduced. So that is at least one plus. So I'm happy about that. But that aside, Bob, who wants to repair his relationship with Brick, while Brick is trying to have a secret relationship with Patty, Bob is sort of like trying to chum up to his son in a very, again, uncomfortable way, and probably in a way that, like, I don't know that any parent would be comfortable talking about sex with their child with, especially since their child had been engaged in sort of this inappropriate sexual relationship with an adult who was a parent at their school. But Bob thinks it's okay to joke about these things, and it was just very uncomfortable for me as a viewer. And Brick is sort of turns him down and is like, you know what, just, it's better that you're an absentee father. And Bob, being the good father that he is, or trying to be, goes to Brick's wrestling coach, because this wrestling match is brought up several times throughout the episode. Again, it's just a way for us to have a place for all the characters to collide. And Bob goes to Brick's wrestling coach to get some tips and to learn about wrestling so he can sort of seem like a better father to his son, which is sweet. And we get a scene of Christopher Gorham and Bob in wrestling singlets and wrestling each other, and Christopher Gorham is teaching him the terms of wrestling and like what this is and what that is by showing him what wrestling is, because Christopher Gorham used to be the coach. Not the coach, the captain of his high school wrestling team, whatever. dumb scene, sort of unimportant. We didn't even really need it. Probably could have been cut, in my opinion, but fun scene nonetheless. Bob then comes home, interrupts Patty and Brick, and is finally getting to know that this relationship is even happening, to which he insinuates that he was sleeping with Patty the same way he had slept with Arden to get back at Bob for some reason, which makes Patty uncomfortable and makes her run out and then run to Christian. What else is she gonna do? And she's obviously into Christian because while she's sort of like engaging in this like moment with Brick, she can't get Christian off her mind. And it seems like to me that, well, while she's with Christian, we'll move on to this, because while she's with Christian, they're talking and she's explaining to him like why she decided to be in pageants, because he says to her, it just doesn't seem like it's who you are. And she explains to him, you know, I used to be very overweight and I lost a whole bunch of weight and I want to use this as revenge. And he's like, I knew it. I sensed anger in you. And she says in her mind, which I think is very interesting, that she is so hyper aware of herself and what actually is going on, but she doesn't seem to show it to us very often. But she says in her mind that Christian sees who she is, but Brick sees her as she wants to be, which is sort of like a parallel with Alyssa Milano and Bob's character when they were children, and when we had like a flashback to them in a previous episode, which is again very interesting. There's all these like parallels with all these characters going on with this show, and everything is still just a little superficial, which is all fine. At the baptism, Magnolia spikes Patty's drink with Molly, which then gives her this sort of like hallucinogenic moment while she's getting baptized, where she sees this talking donut who tells her that she needs to be going for what she wants in this life, and that life is too short for her to not take what she wants and take what she deserves. And she comes out of the baptism, immediately breaks up with Brick, and grabs Christian and is like, come with me. They go out to what looks like, and what I can only determine to be the playground of the church, because they're on a playground and it's shaped like Noah's Ark. And again, condoms are brought up because Patty wants to sleep with Christian right then and there out in the open in public, which, what's with Patty and wanting to lose her virginity so quickly and do it in public? That's very risky. And Christian says to her, you know, there's other things that we can do, and he's gonna do something nice for her, so he performs fellatio on her, and we get a close-up of a cell phone recording it. Now, who's recording it? We don't know. Who it's going to be sent to, that is another question, but it's probably someone involved in the pageant, and it's probably, again, another way to get Patty disqualified from the pageant, but I guess we'll have to wait until next week. And the only other thing that I thought was interesting throughout this entire episode was the storyline with Patty's mom, where she's sort of like struggling with her sobriety and like trying to figure out where she fits in the world now as a sober person, because she hasn't been sober for so long. And the pastor tells her to go back to the person that she was before she started drinking so heavily. And she suggests to him that she doesn't remember who that person is or how to figure out who that person is, but she has her diaries, and she finds this list of men that she slept with when she was Patty's age. And why it's interesting to me is because she has this very long list of men who she slept with when she was Patty's age, when she got pregnant with Patty. And I'm wondering, one, who's on the list? And it wouldn't have been a plot point or worth even bringing up if it wasn't going to come up in a later date. And we've never seen Patty's father. And he's been described as being a deadbeat dad. But I have a sneaking suspicion that the father didn't know that Patty's mom was pregnant to begin with, and Patty's dad is going to be one of the men we have encountered already, which is going to make things even more interesting. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Notflix. If you enjoyed yourself here, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can get notified every single time we upload a new video. If you want to keep up with me on a more regular basis, you can follow me across all social media platforms that you can call me Skiff. If you want to be a friend, tell a friend. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.